Hi, and welcome back to the Future of SaaS Festival. We hope you're enjoying the presentation so far. Just a quick reminder, if you're not already a member of our Slack community, follow the link at the top of the event website to network and join the discussion. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We have Jeff Hardison here from Calendly, who's going to be talking about going up market for PLG SaaS. So thanks for joining us, Jeff.
Hi, thanks for having me. Really great to be here at Future SaaS Conference. Jeff Hardison, and as mentioned, I'm with Calendly. I'm head of product marketing there, and I'm going to be talking today about going up market. So I want to make sure you can see my screen here. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. We can see it now.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. We had a little bit of technical difficulty, so I appreciate your patience. So, Calendly, I don't know if you've heard of us, but we allow you to improve your scheduling for your teams. You could be a salesperson, you could be a CS person, you could be a yoga instructor, and you would use Calendly to be able to offer up different times that you're available on your end, and you allow the person on the other end to choose times. And so you can paste these times like an email, you can make these available on your website and so forth. And so we have a number of different people. If you just go onto Twitter and search for I love Calendly, you'll find all kinds of people, from clinicians to professors to salespeople and customer success people and marketers using Calendly in different ways. And we are a product-led growth company. So it sounds exactly like, it's written. A PLG company basically has the product lead the company versus maybe the sales team or marketers. And so what this means is the product itself will do a lot of the heavy work around attracting customers, right? So it might be some type of, once I share a Calendly invite, you'll see sign up for Calendly for free, instead of maybe an ad that I would have to purchase. That little call to action would be inside the actual product invite itself and would attract people to sign up. Two, this might actually use the product to encourage people to use the product in different types of features. So maybe when you sign up, you'll watch some type of video versus get some training from customer success. Maybe you'll get an email 3 days later if you don't use the product or a certain type of feature. And so it's really using the product to do that kind of hand-holding that sometimes customer success and sales teams have done historically. Three, this will allow you to kind of trigger different types of upgrade offers to customers to paid credit card plans. So you might be on a freemium trial, and then 10 days later, you'll get an offer to say hey, if you want to continue to use this product, you need to upgrade with your credit card. And then last, a lot of product-led growth companies are using the product itself to encourage people to renew. So maybe, you had an annual plan, and a year later, instead of having a salesperson or customer success person set up a meeting to talk about, hey, do you want to renew, into the next year, the product itself can do a lot of that heavy work. And so one of the things I like to do to know whether this is a product-led growth company we're dealing with or a more traditional sales assisted company is I'll go to the pricing page and I'll see maybe there's a free plan, maybe there are different kinds of credit card plans. And if it allows you to try for free and to upgrade with a credit card, probably it's a product-led growth company or a self-serve company that's kind of taking an e-commerce model to engaging with you. Now, conversely, there's a lot of different types of, traditional sales-led companies, maybe from, early 2000s. A lot of these companies are thriving today as well, to back in the 90s. They didn't have this ability to use the product to maybe charge you instead of talking to a salesperson if you wanted to buy, right? And so sales and customer success and marketing, we all did a lot of this work that I mentioned previously. So instead of using just the product to attract customers, you might use sales and marketing to do that work, right? It might be some type of ad campaign. Now, little secret, a lot of product-led growth companies spend a lot of money on ads, but we'll talk about that later. Second, you might find that instead of using the product to encourage you to use different types of features by sending you emails or in-app messages, you might have the customer success team set up a training. Hey, Jeff, glad you signed up for Calendly. It's been a couple weeks. Notice you haven't really used it yet. Maybe we can do a training to see if you can get some value from it. Three, in these more traditional environments, the sales team might help with upgrading to a paid pricing plan. Maybe you were on some type of free trial, right, with some type of software, and then sales says, okay, now if you'd like to buy, here's the PDF, here's the DocuSign, you need to sign this, and then it's going to cost you, $50,000 a year, right? Or this might be customer success doing this kind of work. And then if you want to renew in these kind of traditional environments, it might be the customer success team talking to you about that renewal. So what you see here is that in more traditional environments, you have sales and marketing and customer success doing a lot of the work that in PLG companies, we try to get the product to do, right? And so when you have a kind of a PLG focus, some of the benefits of this to your company are the following. And there's many more than this, but these are some of my favorites. So by focusing on the product, it really forces you to make a great product. This is something where you have to think through, like, what is the first time user experience? When someone first tries a product, does it have help videos? Does it have helpful text, right? Does it send you an email with some tips in it? And so you really have to do that kind of work, because you can't hide behind some customer success or salesperson who would do that for you, in the old days. Second, there's arguably lower customer acquisition costs with PLG. Now, we can talk about how a lot of PLG companies spend money on ads in order to drive those free signups. But a lot of successful PLG companies, at least in the early days, are able to acquire a lot of their customers with various kinds of, invite a friend offers or sign up for free for Calendly, like I mentioned earlier, all those kind of growth levers. And then third, by making this very affordable and purchasable by anybody, you don't have to necessarily get some type of invoice that requires your legal department to sign off on. It's arguably more accessible to more people. And so with us, instead of us just focusing on, hey, what can our sales team handle? Maybe it's just selling to salespeople. We were able to make Calendly available to all kinds of people. And so we have millions of users, from those yoga instructors to my plumber uses it, to say like a salesperson that I might talk to for a bigger purchase. And so there's been lots of benefits of companies doing product-led growth. A number of the most successful companies through the past few years have taken this approach where they really rely on the product. Now, this is the thing a lot of people don't talk about in PLG circles, and that is at some point, PLG companies, they can hit a revenue ceiling, right? This work of using just the product to get people to try for free and to upgrade doesn't work with every type of customer out there. And so what you'll often see is that this kind of graph will ensue. You'll have kind of in green here, the self-serve credit card revenue after a few years. Sometimes for PLG companies, it starts to plateau a bit, or maybe it doesn't grow at the same clip that it used to. And everybody's like, why is this happening? What's going on? Well, a lot of these PLG companies, what they do is after a few years, dirty little secret, a lot of people say PLG doesn't need sales. Many of them add a sales team. Slack did this, Atlassian has people, they're not necessarily called salespeople, but they're doing this. A lot of the most successful PLG companies have added a sales team or customer success to put the human element back into PLG, okay? And so what you'll see is that revenue starts to go up. And so a number of companies after, say, 10 years, maybe self-serve credit card revenue only represents about, say, 20% of their revenue, whereas the sales team adds maybe like another 80%. So when they start to go up market, you need to think differently about your company, okay? And so I really believe that creating this hybrid environment where it's not an either or, it's not a binary thing, it's not black and white, like we like to make a lot of things in the tech industry, you can have both. So you have kind of the product-led growth, where you are using the product to teach people about certain types of features and how to use the product. You're using the product to encourage others to sign up for your product. Maybe it's like the sign up for your own Calendly page at the bottom in an invite. And then you add that to humans, to the sales and customer success people. And that is going to create that real love where you can be able to reach all kinds of customers. And so the way this looks like, let's go back to, the thing that I like to do. I'll go to a pricing page and say, is this a product-led growth company only? You could only buy via credit card and try for free, no talking to sales. Is this a sales only where you have to do the demo request or contact us? Or is this a hybrid environment like Calendly where you're doing both trying for free, upgrading with credit card plan? But if you want some other types of features like security features, like, SAML-based SSO, or you want some type of admin features that maybe somebody that runs your department really needs, you would talk to sales, okay? And so there's a lot of great reasons to move up market. One is a lot of smaller businesses tend to churn, meaning they tend to go away quickly. They'll try maybe for a year and then stop being a customer. And larger companies, once you land them, even though they're a little bit more work and sometimes require a salesperson, they tend to stick around a little bit longer. And also, this gives the company an opportunity to kind of reach new markets. And so, you might find yourself, hey, we're doing really well, but we're only able to sell to small businesses or startups because they don't have the bureaucracy. They don't have legal departments and IT departments and all kinds of people that want to weigh in bigger companies. And so if we want to reach those bigger companies, maybe companies greater than 500 employees that have those new departments that want to weigh in on everything, you might need a salesperson or CS person to unlock that. So here's 3 tips for going up market for you. And I've got a little link to a blog post that I wrote that gives you many more tips and goes into greater detail about all this if you're adding sales to PLG. But this is just a little teaser. So first off, one of the things that I've seen product-led growth companies really stumble at is the human element, right? They get so used to not having these humans around that they don't have to necessarily think through the human element. Calendly's done a wonderful job of this by being able to train both existing and new employees about what's going to happen. How's your culture going to change? You got all these new people coming in that might be salespeople and you're not used to having them around. They have a certain way of acting and certain needs that they have. Well, maybe you have these PLG people over here that the salespeople need to get used to. So you got to train everybody for mutual empathy. Okay. So I try to kind of illustrate it here. Here's an example. Let's say that, you're a product-led growth company and you're used to making decisions using data, which is very common. So you might go into something like, amplitude or mode, and you're like, we really need to clean up that UX. It's getting pretty complicated. We don't like to have very complicated 1990 style UX in PLG companies. Why don't we go look at features that only like 3% of customers are using? Well, did you run that idea by sales? Did you run that by CS? Maybe that 3% of customers using that feature are our largest customers. Maybe that's like Microsoft and Procter & Gamble, and they make up like half of our revenue. So you got to start using empathy to think about what's the other side of the house need and how does this impact their customers, not just our classic customers. Another example, let's say that folks on the PLG side, they're very design forward and maybe they come from consumer backgrounds. Maybe they work for Facebook or something like that. They might really be looking to see like, how do we automate, selling and onboarding people without using salespeople and CS people? Well, the salesperson doesn't feel heard, right? They're like, hey, I'm pretty important too. I've got to talk to these IT and legal departments of these bigger companies. We can't just use the product for everything. And so what you have to do, folks, out there as empathetic people is try to get these two sides of the house to get along and to see each other's perspective. And so form all kinds of educational opportunities, form all kinds of forums where people can talk and share, their needs, both on the PLG side as well as on the sales assistant side. And I guarantee you'll be able to get through some of these growing pains a lot faster. Second, something I recommend doing is what I call splitting the top of the marketing funnel. And so what you want to do here is you will kind of look at classic PLG marketing. So the funnel is, how do people come into the product when they visit your website, they then sign up for free, and then they look to upgrade to a paid credit card plan? Well, a lot of the kind of marketing we do to get people at the top of the funnel are things like writing broadly relevant content. So for example, instead of maybe like in a sales assisted organization, I might just write a blog post about how to use Calendly. Well, in a PLG company, they might not even talk about Calendly. They might talk about meetings and how to make meetings better, or top 5 Zoom plugins that have nothing to do with us, but is related to our general space so that we can attract all kinds of people so that we can make that kind of revenue from a small, medium-sized business perspective, okay? And then we might also have things like in-app growth levers that, when you invite somebody, you see that little sign up for free type call to action, okay? When you add a sales team, instead of jettisoning, getting rid of all the PLG marketing, you want to keep that. It's important, but you need to balance that with more kind of traditional, conventional sales-led marketing, right? These are things that salespeople might care about. So maybe sales says, hey, PLG, you're doing an amazing job of bringing in kind of like the freemium users in bigger companies. Keep doing that. You're also doing a great job of bringing in small, medium-sized businesses. we're going to go focus on like target 1,000 companies, really large, greater than 1,000 employee companies. And what we want to do is we want to do all kinds of marketing just for them. So could you help us with maybe creating a PDF that's just special for them about this new feature versus them finding it on the website? Maybe it's a webinar just for them where we answer their questions, right? And so what you're doing is you're doing a little bit of work for both sides of the house versus overcorrecting and just doing one. Third thing I found that's really helpful is something that works in all kinds of change situations, and that is communicate to the point where you are boring yourself, okay? Because you're probably not yet reaching everybody you need to in your organization about these great changes. And don't just communicate a lot, communicate in the ways people like. Today we got Slack, today we got email. Some people like to watch videos. Some people don't look at anything. They only listen when you're in a meeting and you're looking at them, right? We've all been there. And so what you want to do is make sure that you're communicating across all those different types of communication channels and doing it early and often so that people aren't on launch day saying like, wait, what are we launching? All right, so that's just 3 tips. If you'd like to read more about this, feel free to go to productled.org and you'll find a post by me where I talk more about some of these tips. Or you could just Google, Jeff Hardison, Product Led, and would love for you to be my friend on LinkedIn. I need more friends there. That's where I talk more about work. But you can also follow me on Twitter, where I'll probably joke around a little bit more. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much to Jeff for that presentation. So if anyone has any questions for Jeff, please do drop them in the chat now. He'd be happy to answer them and discuss a little bit more. So hopefully that's been really helpful for you all. I know I actually had a question. So you were talking about all the different teams sort of coming up with that different kind of content for different sort of personas, different audiences. How do you coordinate all of that? Sort of, do you find there's a lot of overlap, and sort of how do you avoid different teams sort of and their goals crossing?
It's a great question. I think in an ideal world, so what some companies do when they go up market, they just throw up their hands and are like, the two sides won't get each other. And so they literally have 2 marketing departments. They have the PLG marketing department where they're doing all this very top of funnel, not even talking about products kind of thing. And then they go over here and they create more of an enterprise marketing department. Well, that's an easy solution. The challenge is that's hiring a lot of people, right? And so what I prefer to do, if possible, is start with creating that empathy, right? Doing different types of sessions where we're talking about both sides. Like, let the PLG people talk about what they think is valuable about this content that doesn't talk about their own product. What value have they seen now? What kind of return on investment have they seen? So they can build a numbers case with the more kind of numbers-driven sales assisted side, right? And then the sales assisted side can share, hey, in my past job, this one kind of PDF, I know it's kind of a lane that was a PDF, but it closed some major deals. Could you please just help me with that one PDF? And once you start to have some early wins together, I found that starts to create even more empathy, and people are more willing to do both sides of the content marketing.
Absolutely. Okay, that absolutely makes sense. We had the next question here from Jackie, who said, what kind of tools would you say have helped you the most in moving your company up market?
It's a good question. What kind of tools? Well, I like to make a case with data, right? And so whether that is qualitative data or quantitative data. And so Zoom is obviously a great tool for, recording customer conversations. So instead of me making a gut instinct decision saying like, hey, we should just add a sales team, right? Or this other company over here, our competitor has a sales team. That's the old school way of doing things. Instead, try to make decisions and make a case for yourself using the voice of the customer. So you can record calls with customers where they say like, hey, we have this IT department or admin department and they really need help. Could we get a salesperson to talk to them or a customer success person? Oh, we don't have those. That's helping make a case. So you bundle up like 3 of those quotes from major customers and show that to your team to try to make a case for something like having a sales team. Second, you can go in and look at market data and say, hey, we work with all these small, medium-sized businesses, but there's this other 1,000 companies over here who need admin controls and security. We know that about them. If we want to go after that kind of revenue over here, we're probably need to add a sales team. And third, I love to use tools like Mode, which helps you look at behavioral data so that you can actually help the PLG side of the house make a case back to sales and say like, hey, we know this one feature is important to this one customer, but we're going to need probably more than one, maybe like 3 or 4 customers that are using that. And we show you the data of how no one is using this feature.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Thank you so much for answering that. So our next question is from Sean, who says, who should own the revenue from deals in this kind of structure?
Like which department?
Yeah, I think that's potentially
good question. So I have seen different approaches. I've seen one approach where sales owns the sales assistant revenue, obviously. Any kind of demo requests that they close, they own. I've seen where in those environments, either marketing or product management owns the product-led growth and credit card revenue. And I've seen about half and half out there. I like to do a slightly different approach where sales owns the sales assistant, but product and marketing, they partner, they've shared OKRs around the credit card revenue, because product needs marketing sometimes, right? Maybe they need ads for more top of funnel for the small, medium size, PLG deals. And then marketing needs product in terms of making changes to the product. Maybe it's like new onboarding, right? And they're going to need to make a case to engineering through product. And so if you have both those teams working together, I've seen things really work a little bit better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So I think at the moment, if anyone has any more questions, please do let us know. But I think for now, that is everything we've got. So I actually have one last question is, what would be your, do you have any sort of final advice for our attendees who are looking to achieve that?
I would Google product-led growth marketing, product-led growth sales. A number of new materials are popping up out there, podcasts. There's things on this very, company's site as well that you can look up, but there's a lot being written right now, and take a look and do some studying about how to add sales to a product-led growth company.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I think that is all the questions that we have at the moment. So thank you so much for presenting, for stepping in at the last minute as well. In case our attendees hadn't noticed, this is not Patrick Moran. So this is Jeff Hardison. So thank you very much for giving us your time today. And hopefully you can connect with Jeff just up there on LinkedIn. We also have our Slack community that you can chat with him as well, and answer any questions. So thanks very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. Bye.